Jeff, I've got to ask you about Transylvania, out there in Romania, before we go to calls. The home of Dracula. Is that place really scary? I mean, that whole region.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, Bron Castle and Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepes was quite the legend. I mean, my goodness, his own kingdom imprisoned him. They were so afraid of him. But yeah, no, that stuff leaves a mark. And Bron Castle, which is probably one of the most closely tied locations still left to Vlad the Impaler. Said to be haunted by Vlad himself, although pretty much anywhere that he went, they claim his ghost still roams, which is interesting. I don't know if he can be in more than one place at once, but his legend sure can be. That's for certain. And I think we have such a fascination with the whole vampire notion. Bram Stoker, of course, made him sexy and powerful. But long before Bram Stoker, and before Vlad, vampires were actually pretty horrible creatures. They were the walking dead. They were consumption victims. Right. They were people that fed on the living. Yeah, you didn't want to be one. They weren't sexy like Twilight. They were not attractive at all. And that's another legend that boy, you look at that throughout the years. Even in Rhode Island and near where I live. In the 1890s, there was a case of a vampire that was exhumed from Exeter Cemetery, and Mercy Brown. She was dug up. Her father took her heart out of her body, burned it into ashes, and fed the ashes to his son because he believed that she was a vampire. And 1890s was kind of modern times. The Providence Journal wrote an article about it, saying, "Look at what these crazy bumpkins in southern Rhode Island are doing." But he was desperate. His family was wiped out by tuberculosis. He believed there was a vampire afoot. And then, he did this act to his daughter because he thought it was the only option. But then, of course, Bram Stoker made them sexy, and now we've got Twilight and everything else. But they weren't always.
Okay, you've got a full bank of calls here, Jeffrey, so let's take them. Cleveland, Ohio we go. First-time caller, Rob, you're up with us on Coast to Coast. Hi, Rob, Go ahead.
Hello. I wanted to ask you about the Mansfield prison where they filmed Shawshank Redemption, but I'm going to change my mind at the last second and ask you if you ever heard of the burning of the Gore Orphanage in Vermilion, Ohio, or the haunted Franklin House in Cleveland, Ohio.
You mean Franklin Castle?
Franklin Castle, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know that one, sure, yeah. I spoke to the owner not that long ago, actually.
They have hidden passages and secret rooms where people were murdered.
Yeah, right, yeah. These places, isn't it funny how we all hear about them and want to know more about them? I believe Franklin Castle, I think he's opening up for touring, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. But it is one of the well-known haunts there that, secret societies and all kinds of other conspiracies that blend on top of the ghostly legends. Yeah, good stuff.
So what would possess somebody to go to a bread and breakfast? That's all fun, right?
Sure.
Romantic. But in a haunted place, or in some cases, you spend the night in that room where something happened.
Yeah, no, well, gosh, Lizzie Borden in Fall River, Massachusetts, the Lizzie Borden's bed and breakfast. They've got a ton of supernatural tourists that want to stay in the room where the murder happened. That want to sit, on the couch where Mr. Borden was hacked to death. I think it's our nature to want to legend trip, to want to explore these places, and this gives you the opportunity to do so. You can have the place to yourself for the evening, for a price. And maybe have that experience, maybe touch something. I think it's funny too that I call it most famous phenomenon, where we're always trying to attach a label to whatever might be there. You go down into Virginia where there's so many bed and breakfasts that say, George Washington slept here, and they're old, and some of them seem to be haunted, and they say, yeah, it's the ghost of George Washington, who stayed there one night in 1789, and it's going to haunt there forever. It's not the drunk gardener who fell off the roof in 1940. It's George Washington. We feel safer if we can at least label that strange knock on the wall. It's George Washington. It never hurt us. It's okay. Yeah, what a nice experience. And Nancy, what a great Phantom Hitchhiker story you shared. Those kind of accounts come all over the country. I was in Chicago last weekend, where I think the most famous in the United States, most famous Phantom Hitchhiker, Resurrection Mary on Archer Avenue on the south side of Chicago. People drive down the street right by Resurrection Cemetery. They see a girl walking. They pull over to see if she needs help. She disappears, or maybe she gets in the car and disappears. That legend goes back 60 years, and it's wonderful. There's one in Massachusetts. They're everywhere. And